Okay. Hi, everybody. Hi, welcome. Hope everyone is having a fantastic Thursday. There are so many of you coming in. I wish we could all see you in person. It would have been so wonderful, but we're getting there. We will be kicking off in a second or so. While everyone is coming in, settling in, please do share your profession and where you're tuning in from in the chat. Health promoter, public health professional, student, professor, all are welcome. With that, we are so thrilled to have you join us for Health Promotion Ontario's 2022 webinar series, Resilience, Recovery, and Renewal in Health Promotion. I'm Gaia, a member of HPO's Professional Development Subcommittee and the moderator for today's session. Today, we are very excited to kick it off with our first session, Opportunities and Optimism for Health Promotion. We'd like to start today's webinar by acknowledging the traditional lands on which we're situated. Today, I'm meeting virtually with you from what we now call the Greater Toronto Area. I acknowledge that this is the traditional land of the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. With this, I respect the long-standing relationships that Indigenous peoples have to this land, as they are the original caretakers. I acknowledge the historical and ongoing injustices that Indigenous peoples endure in Canada. I encourage you to take time to reflect on the traditional land in which you're situated and how you can play a role in renewing respectful relationships with Indigenous communities. Now, this session is made possible by our Professional Development Subcommittee, the Ontario Public Health Association, and of course, Health Promotion Ontario. As the voice of health promotion across the province, HPO seeks to advance the importance of health promotion through professional development, member communication, and advocacy. Consider becoming a member today. First, a few housekeeping items. Please note that this session is being recorded and it will be available on the HPO website later this month for your convenience. We also encourage you to share your questions in the Q&A section and participate in discussions using the chat box during the presentations. We love to see interaction. Now let's get started. We have three presenters for you to kick it off. Irv Rootman, a researcher, professor, author, and consultant in the field of health promotion for over 35 years. Patsy Beatty-Huggin, a consultant to many national and international projects with their creative work in health promotion. And Leslie Dyke, a consultant with over 25 years of experience in public health and community development. Over to you.
Hello, and welcome to Becoming a Network of Networks, an overview of how Health Promotion Canada is exploring networks to renew the organization and to advance health promotion at the national level in Canada. My name is Leslie Dyke. I'm a consultant based in British Columbia on the traditional and unceded territory of the Syilx people. On behalf of my colleagues today, I want to thank Health Promotion Ontario for inviting us to contribute to the three-part webinar series focused on resilience, recovery, and renewal in health promotion. We believe there is an opportunity and optimism for health promotion at this time, the theme of this webinar today, but it will require us to return to our roots and explore new ways of engaging across sectors and disciplines. This is the conversation that is happening at the national level within Health Promotion Canada, where a small group of volunteers from across Canada, including the three of us, are exploring how we can renew the purpose and structure of the organization, in part through the development of a network of networks. In the few minutes we have today, we want to do three things. We want to start by setting the context, and we'll make the case for needing health promotion and promoters more than ever. Then we will share a brief history of health promotion in Canada and a new book, Health Promotion for Older Adults, as an example of creating an intersectoral and interdisciplinary resource made possible by using the Ottawa Charter for Health Promotion as the framework. Finally, we will end with sharing a few thoughts about building a network of networks to support this approach and what you can do in your own practice right away. Our contact information is at the end of our slide deck, so you can be in touch if you have ideas or want to get involved.
Hello, my name is Patsy Beatty Huggan. I'm pleased to have the opportunity to join my colleagues in making this presentation from Charlottetown, PEI, which is located in the unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. Today's webinar is being presented at a critical time in society's understanding of the interconnection between our physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual health, the economy, community, and the tensions that emerge when needs are frustrated. Information not accurate, and power in the hands of the power-hungry. These forces have brought the concepts of public health, health promotion, determinants of health, and governance into the general lexicon. In this context, there is a need for holistic practices and policies that consider equity, inclusion, and caring to manage current and future health challenges. Social justice issues, such as gender disparities, poverty, systemic racism, and colonialism are on the forefront of the work ahead. Adding to our growing public awareness is the urgency of climate change and the desire for peace in the world, and our experience when peace is threatened. COVID-19 changed the dialogue, but now is time for us to take our thoughts forward to the future. How do we facilitate the transformative change required to create holistic, integrated, and person-centered systems? Can health promotion be an empowering force for a more equitable society? And how do we build a movement for health promotion? Let's take a few minutes to think about how to answer these questions and hear what Irv and Leslie have to say in response.
Hi everyone, I'm happy to be able to share a bit about the development of the recent resource on promoting the health of older adults. But first I want to make a few comments on the progress of health promotion in Canada since its establishment. The development of the field of health promotion began in 1978 when the Health Promotion Directorate was established by Health and Welfare Canada. I was hired as the chief of the Health Promotion Studies Unit and have been active in health promotion ever since. In 1986, I was fortunate enough to be able to attend the first international conference on health promotion in Ottawa, organized by the Health Promotion Directorate, the Canadian Public Health Association, and the World Health Organization. And I've been following the development of the field and have participated as an editor and author in the development of several books on health promotion in Canada, the most recent one being Promoting the Health of the Older Adults, the Canadian Experience, published by Canadian scholars last year. I don't have enough time to give you all the details about the development of health promotion as a field of study, research, and practice in Canada today, but I can provide a short version. In the decade following the conference that I just mentioned, which produced the Ottawa Charter for Health Promotion, used in Canada and worldwide since then, there was a lot of activity in health promotion here. Health promotion units were established in governments, universities, research units. Also, the number of practitioners grew across the country. It was what we call in our books on health promotion in Canada, the golden era of health promotion. However, shortly after the Second International Conference on Health Promotion in 2007, the field began to lose traction, which it's continued until today. For example, during the 15 years since the conference, the federal government eliminated the Health Promotion Directorate, which had provided leadership to the field at the national level and access to policy development. This is also the case in the most provincial governments, which has led to a shortage of leadership and policy development from governments at both levels. On the other hand, recently there have been some positive developments in the field. For example, the federal government funded a project to develop a document on health promotion competencies. They also provided some resources to support the development of a new national organization called Health Promotion Canada, as did Health Promotion Ontario. A number of provinces have since developed related networks. The university-based health promotion programs are still in operation and awarding degrees in the field, And recently, courses in health promotion are being offered by other university departments such as gerontology, social work, nursing, and kinesiology. Also, some of the recently established national collaborating centers funded by the federal government are supporting initiatives in health promotion. For example, the National Collaborating Center on Determinants of Health has been partnering with Health Promotion Canada on webinars for the past few years and currently is supporting a webinar series based on the book that I mentioned on promoting the health of older adults. This book uses the 5 action areas in the Ottawa Charter as its framework and has authors from a wide variety of fields, such as the ones that I just mentioned. As it turned out, this was a very successful strategy to integrating contributions from different fields around a common health promotion framework. This experience confirmed my opinion that health promotion is a multi-field enterprise and that we should not only recognize it, but take advantage of this conclusion and establish a network of networks for health promotion as we are discussing in this webinar. And finally, I'm pleased to let you know that the publisher, Canadian Scholars Press, has provided a free copy of the book as a door prize today and will give 20% off any orders that use the promo code NCCDH20 for the next 30 days. Thank you.
The creation of Health Promotion Canada was a grand experiment, largely championed by volunteers in Health Promotion Ontario who recognized the potential and need for a national movement. Health Promotion Ontario had already existed for 30 years when the competencies were created with funding from the Public Health Agency of Canada. This was followed by the creation of an executive group and a national website. We don't have time to go into all the details, but over the past 5 years, Health Promotion Canada has focused on advancing health promotion nationally, while regional volunteers worked on developing chapters and networks. We now have clusters of committed people across the country, but the idea of a membership organization has not taken off, likely in part due to the different public health structures across the country. But that is a webinar for another day. Today we want to focus on the intersectoral nature of health promotion action, especially in relation to addressing structural and social determinants of health, and talk a bit about what kind of structure might support this. In some ways, what we're talking about is moving from a programmatic approach to building a movement. I'm sure all of us have implemented health promotion programs on behalf of our organization or client, and some of us have been part of collective impact initiatives which help organizations collaborate. But if we are truly able to achieve the kind of change health promotion principles call for, it will require diverse organizations and stakeholders, and the application of a systems thinking approach. We are planning a couple of sessions to explore building a network of networks with Canadian and international health promoters, and we would encourage you to attend both of these, especially since you can attend online. We will also be reaching out to our Health Promotion Canada members and the health promotion community in Canada to talk about how to renew Health Promotion Canada, what kind of governance structure would support a network of networks, and how we can create a space that supports intersectoral action on the key health promotion issues all of us are working on. So, what does this mean for you right now? It means that we need to be applying systems thinking in everything that we do, in all of the networks we're already a part of. The Social Change Agency in the UK has some excellent movement building resources like this one to help us be intentional in the way we come together. We're happy to answer any and all of your questions, but we also have a few of our own and look forward to a great discussion. We'd like to know more about your experiences, good and bad, related to working in networks. We want to know how you feel about your network development skills and what you've seen work well at different levels. And finally, what is your best piece of advice as we work to build a network of networks? We are happy to answer any questions, and we'd love to hear your ideas and get you involved. So don't hesitate to be in touch. Thank you.
That was excellent. Thank you so much, Irv, Patsy, and Leslie. I'm imagining all of you virtually clapping with me right now. Next in line, our speaker has worked across diverse communities, facilitating community development and crime prevention projects for the last 14 years. She's currently a health promoter at the Pinecrest Queensway in Ottawa. Please help me welcome Robin Collins.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Robin Collins, and I am a health promoter. I work at Pinecrest Queensway Community Health Centre in Ottawa's West End. I've worked at PQ for 14 years in the areas of community development, health promotion, and crime prevention. And I'm here to talk to you today about some of my experiences in working in health promotion during the pandemic. So it was during the pandemic that I think the genetics of a health promoter really began to transfigure and shift. The pandemic changed us. It changed where we work, how we work, and what we work towards, forever changing the face of health promoter in many positive ways, which I'm going to get to later in my presentation. So a lot of immediate challenges arose. A lot of these goes without saying at this point. I think we're all very aware that there were challenges around homeschooling, job loss, exacerbated mental health and substance misuse challenges, food security, mobility barriers to access testing and later vaccines. We also experienced a lot of language barriers with our clients trying to communicate about a very novel virus, as experts were still trying to understand it themselves and translate that into multiple languages so that our clients could understand their choices and the information and all the public health education that was happening. Ottawa Public Health was fantastic in being able to translate so much information into many languages. The other thing was that we learned how COVID-19 was disproportionately impacting Black, Indigenous people of color. And in addition to the unprecedented coronavirus, another monumental event happened in the summer of 2020, when the Ottawa Board of Health declared systemic racism a public health issue. Ottawa Public Health began collecting race-based data to get a fuller picture of the impact of COVID-19 and the barriers that racialized residents face in getting care. And the data confirmed that the coronavirus was and continues to affect the BIPOC community at a disproportionately higher rate. So at Pinecrest Queensway, we did a number of needs assessments. We did ongoing needs assessments in real time by doing wellness checks, going door to door, checking in with people over the phone. And we carried out 2 formal needs assessments as well, which can be found on our website under research and evaluations. There were 6 key thematic findings that came out of these needs assessment. They're listed here, and I invite you to check out the report. The top 3, however, were around social isolation, food insecurity, and the growing digital divide in terms of digital inequity with access to technology and internet needs. So how we responded with our partners, and we did partner with over 15 organizations at the beginning and height of the pandemic, including many of our usual partners, but also growing some new partnerships as well, including working with our community houses, Ottawa Community Housing, Ottawa Public Health, the Boys and Girls Club, the Ottawa Food Bank, the Mission, and the City of Ottawa. And collectively, we provided immediate crisis supports around the needs listed above. One of which was food, because there was an increased demand. Therefore, we needed increased staffing, pop-up food banks, food trucks, and door-to-door delivery. And the Ottawa Mission was really pivotal in bringing meal trucks, food trucks to various neighborhoods to provide hot meals to folks, to get them out of the house and provide food right in the neighborhood on a regular basis. The other thing is that we had to rapidly learn IT, like so many people, I think, had to brush up on some IT that they hadn't had to use before. We became tech support to hold engagement and also to engage new hard to reach folks who were in isolation. We also responded with mobile testing, pop-up testing sites, and things like ice cream trucks, where we bring ice cream trucks into the neighborhood to have a presence there and get people to come out and talk about vaccine hesitancy, whether they chose to get a test or a vaccine or not. It was an opportunity to engage in a conversation with public health nurses and health promoters there. We brought vaccines to under-resourced neighborhoods through pop-up clinics, neighborhood hubs, and what was the airplane model, where we went door to door providing vaccines to folks. So we also continued to try to engage as many folks as we could. Staff, residents, and partners met in virtual spaces, and we continue to at this time, socializing, learning, and interacting in fun new ways to provide programs to decrease social isolation. So we provided many programs like magic shows, multicultural seniors meetings, bingo, trainings, cooking shows, and physical exercise programs like yoga and dancing. All of this carried out virtually, but with a plan to return to in-person. However, I think we will benefit from hybrid models, as we've seen increased participation from some who were previously not able to participate because of transportation or mobility barriers, weather, and these kinds of things. Now that we've been able to provide tablets and laptops and these kind of things to people, they're able to participate from the comfort of their own home. And it's in fact increasing participation in some of the programs. So how has the pandemic influenced individual population health of the future? The pandemic has become a bit of a scapegoat, I think, for all of the pre-existing inequities and social injustices that people face daily. Those practicing in the field of health promotion will see that the pandemic made existing gendered, racial, social inequities far worse. We have seen the impacts of this on under-resourced and underserved groups, including but not limited to racialized clients, those living with disabilities, and at heightened risk due to human-made barriers. I think the future health promoter and their allies can see this as an opportunity to truly hear and more collectively respond to health inequities and the distribution of resources, now that we have been able to put these under the social justice microscope. The COVID-19 pandemic has tested our field of work and demonstrated that we need to commit to a transformative and highly adaptable way of working in complex systems and relationships, both in person and remotely. So I see some key needs that have come to light in my work in the past 2 years, and I propose a few responses to these. So one of the needs is knowing more about the impact of loneliness and social exclusion on health outcomes, and responding to this by, in that more of our practices be centered on increasing belonging, social inclusion, and social prescribing. Secondly, reflecting more on the mind-body connection, which we've done a lot better of a job over the past couple of decades. And I think the pandemic has really shone a light on the need for this, calling for more focus on community development, primary health and wellness in an integrated, holistic way. And thirdly, that the social determinants of health are simply not enough to predict or address health and wellness, and that we need to understand these as nonlinear, ensuring that we see health through a kaleidoscopic lens. So responding to that with tailored responses and a move towards addressing the social determinants of health through a shared responsibility and accountability for health, which calls for a multi-sectoral approach. Mohamedi, who is a professor of health promotion and an expert in the field at Shaheed University in Iran, challenges us to adopt a complexity-informed health promotion and sees this as the fourth public health revolution. The need for developing complexity-informed theories, tools, and skills so as to manage the complexity of health promotion. The pandemic has demonstrated the need for and inevitability of this new wave of health promotion. So when we talk about the future health promoter, I think this is really exciting. And based on demand, today's health promoter has needed to shift their way of thinking and reaching clients. A new breed health promoter requires a dynamic set of skills to meet the increased need for integrated care and working in complex systems. And I think this requires core competencies that health promoters have had, and in addition to some new ones in broad systems thinking, even more efforts on community partnerships and evidence-based data analytics and communication and complexity thinking, but more so through an anti-racist health equity lens. I think the future health promoter needs to have stellar IT skills for hybrid programming and social media and marketing skills to engage and keep engagement from residents and clients. And the future health promoter will know that they cannot address the social determinants of health without engaging multi-sectorally and working to revolutionize health promotion as a shared responsibility. I've worked in crime prevention for many years, and the discourse within crime prevention is that crime cannot be solved solely by the police, nor can it be solved solely by residents, and crime cannot be prevented by policy. And I feel the same way about health promotion, that it's a collective impact work. It is a shared vision, shared goals, and a shared responsibility. There's no particular sector that can solely address the social determinants of health, and that we need to work together. So I see this as an exciting opportunity to highlight the need for this. And I think that this will be the future of health promotion. Thank you so much for listening, and you can contact me here, and stay safe, everyone.
That was incredible, very, very inspiring. And I love the analogy that you made, Robin, about the police and health promotion. Thank you so much. So next up, please help me welcome Bronwyn Underhill. She has worked in Community Health Center for the past 14 years as well, and is currently the Director of Health Promotion and Community Engagement at the Parkdale Queen West Community Health Center in Toronto. Bronwyn, take it away.
Hello, my name is Bronwyn Underhill. Thank you for the chance to speak with you today. My 5 minutes is going to be a quick run through of what I'm thinking about in terms of health promotion and the way forward in this post-pandemic era, post-pandemics eras. We're living in a lot of pandemics right now. I'm the Director of Health Promotion and Community Engagement at Parkdale Queen West Community Health Center, which is in downtown Toronto. So right now, we're living in a time where we're being faced with the outcome of centuries of colonization, anti-Black racism, environmental destruction, unchecked capitalism. We know this because our communities, our neighbors, ourselves are living with the results of that on our health and on the health of our communities. That's of course shown up in COVID and in who is getting sick, who is getting access to vaccines, who has access to paid sick days and time to isolate, who is able to actually continue earning an income and living a dignified and decent life in the midst of this pandemic. But it's not the only pandemic that we're living in. We are also, of course, living in a pandemic of colonization and the impacts of anti-Black racism. We are seeing this, and we are also seeing the resistance and the standing up and saying, this is inadequate. We cannot live this way anymore. Our health is suffering. Our communities are suffering. And of course, we are also living in a pandemic in downtown Toronto of drug poisoning, homelessness, and this general idea that some people's lives and bodies are worth more and others are worth less. And so what can you do if you are interested in health promotion, if you're working in health promotion? How can we use this time and the tools and the skills that we may have in our field to face and challenge this? And really the only way that we can do that is to resist. And the only way we can do that resistance is to actually go deeper and to understand the roots because the roots are the same that have led us here and that we need to change. What are we really talking about, right? We have to fight. We cannot live in a complacent way and feel like we can allow well-meaning government or not well-meaning government to make decisions for us to bring us back to a status quo that we know was not working. We know that because we are being told that. We can see it in the data. You know this from what you study. So, one question that I have for you in this time when we're, having these really great speakers, what are you doing when you ask yourselves these questions about why some people's lives have been worth more than others and why some people's lives have been worth less? What are you going to do when you start to ask yourselves these questions? Have you read the TRC? Are you committed in your personal life or in your professional life, both, to act on the recommendations? Do you know what recommendations you could act on and you should act on? Are you recognizing that the drug poisoning crisis, the homelessness crisis, are policy failures, but there are also policy choices that could be made and that we can advocate for that would reverse some of these damaging impacts? Do you know what your pathway forward in your work or in your volunteer life or in your personal life is to actually join in a community to be part of this resistance and to be part of an imagining of a better world? Because there are so many communities and groups that are telling us the way forward. We just need to listen and we need to amplify their voices. So I want to, end my quick talk with saying, thank you. Please do not be hopeless in this time, but look with clear eyes. Look at what's actually happening and look at where you can have an impact and then have that impact. We can do better, and I know that you will do better. Thank you. Take care. Bye.
That was terrific, Bronwyn. Thank you very much. We love to see your optimism, and that's what we're hoping to achieve, right, with these webinar series and with this topic today. Finally, to wrap up our first session, also from Parkdale, Queen West, we have Beth Luttenberger and Vivian Recollet, Indigenous health promoters. Beth works in the front line with her community in Toronto around cultural healing and harm reduction. And Vivian, who graduated from nursing, works in the Indigenous health sector for her community. Take it away.
Hi, so I'm Beth and this is Vivian. We both work in the New and Wendanomak program at Parkdale Queen West Community Health Center. I've been working in the program for about 2.5 years, and I'm Chickasaw and I sit with the Turtle Clan. So I've lived in Canada most of my life, but it's important for me to use my gifts to give back to the community.
Bonjour, Becca San Quagan Indigo, she can't hold them, who come from getting Don Jabal, who's not like Quagan Indigo. Otherwise, I'm known to mainstream world as Vivian Recollet. I'm the Indigenous health promoter with Parkdale Queen West Community Health Center at the Bathurst site, and I've been here for 7 years, I believe, and I've learned a lot in the time that I have been here, but I've also brought a lot to the program here because I am a Anishinaabe grandmother, water walker, ceremonial woman, ceremonial conductor, pipe carrier. I bring all of the Indigenous aspects of our ways of knowing to the program to enhance our community's well-being. Because in Western society, we define health promotion as an entity of allowing people to take control over their wellness and their life. And sometimes that gets kind of misused because it's not always about letting the people take control of their lives. It's about organizational structures and policies that are implemented. And there's so many vast different things that I could talk and share about how that has impeded the progress of our Anishinaabe people's well-being. And it is only through our Indigenous ways of knowing that we have been able to bring forth new life to our people because of the impacts of colonization itself and those unanswered questions in mainstream society, in health institutions, judicial systems, every kind of system that has been put in place for people, it's like so much barriers for everybody. And it's not only focusing on our people, it's the Black race, the Chinese, all people. And for us as Anishinaabe people and working in this mainstream health field, I feel it is very, very crucial and detrimental to the well-being of our future generations to come to have us in these institutional places to break down some of those barriers. And it's really hard. It's still hard to this day, 2022. I remember when the Quetzalcoatl crisis happened up north and the people were flown off the Quetzalcoatl into the city to be taken care of and provided with necessity of life stuff. And how mainstream society jumped and ran with everything without even consulting the indigenous people of the area of Sudbury, without even consulting us. So we let them do it. You know what? Because we knew what was going to happen. People from the Szechuan speak a certain dialect of language and understand only that. Did these guys ask us for an interpreter? No, they just excluded the community in this stuff. So when we talk about health promotion is an inherent right of all people. And it is a way that indigenous people led their lives from the beginning of time because we honored and respected the sky world, the moon, the sun, the stars, the Milky Way, all of those teachings that come from there to this realm. And Mother Earth, the waters, the animals, the medicines that grow out there. And this is the difference between mainstream and our indigenous way of life. We've seen so much growth in our programs over here because it is led by our indigenous knowledge keepers. And to bring that into a beautiful fruition is we see the improvements in the people by them trying to learn, getting their indigenous name. Because what our names tell us is who we are in our language. Our plants define what we do, our relationship and our responsibilities to community. And for women, it's so critically important that she knows the teachings of the mom. And my grandmother moon is something for us because we have that capability to bring forth life. And our teachings and responsibilities for the water is so critical because that's water is the first thing that comes when we give birth. And our women were revered second to the Creator and held up in the highest esteem by our people since the beginning of time because of our capability to give life. So that's just a little bit of a spin-off of what we do in our programs and some of our indigenous ways of knowing and working in the community to bring forth and give control back to our people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Vivian's absolutely right because at the end of the day, like the systems as Indigenous people, all of the systems that have been created around us aren't for us. And they, in that way, they can and often do negatively impact our health. And as you can see with the medicine wheel behind us, like our health isn't just our physical well-being, it's our spiritual, our mental, our emotional. And that's why in the program, we find it's really important. Like with Niuean Mundanamak, we work a lot of the time with community members who are on the streets and are struggling with the impacts of colonization. And so it's really important that when we work with them in health promotion and promotion, that we work towards their own self-determination, what that wellness looks like for them, to them. And so part of the way that we do that is by bringing in our traditional ways of knowing and of healing, of connecting those members with that spirit and with their culture, reconnecting them a lot of the times because they've been so disconnected as an impact of colonization, residential schools, the 60s school. We facilitate and make the space for them to reconnect so that they can get those answers for themselves. And that they can pray to spirit and connect with the ways that we've always connected and we've always found our answers, to find what looks best for them and to have that courage to share their story and move forward in a good way.
Yeah. And you know, being a survivor of residential school parents, we were never taught what happened. We were never taught what happened in those schools. And we just had a discussion earlier about what that really civilized entity was supposed to be for us. In essence, you know, what happened to our people in those schools was they were sexually abused, they were tortured, they were starved, they were taught to lie, cheat, steal, manipulate, and that's civilized. And you know, when our people picked up that sickness of trauma that they went through, they brought that back home to our people and did the same thing to our people. And that was an intentional genocide to wipe out the indigenous people in our eyes, in my eyes. I didn't know what happened to my mom and my dad because I knew they were alcoholic. That's it. And they stayed. My father told me the reason why he stayed away from us was he was ashamed. He was ashamed of what happened to him, and he was ashamed of what he might do to us, his children. Now, that's a powerful statement to me and to move forward in my life. I'm so fortunate that I got to reconnect with my biological dad to tell me that. And for my mom that cried every night, and I didn't know what she was crying about. Then I found out she was abused in the orphanage by the nuns. And my auntie, great auntie, told me about how they went to steal her from there. So those are things that I carry as a lineage of deep ancestral memories. And those things that happened to me on my journey as a result of all of these things that happened in my life have culminated to a bigger understanding for myself to move forward through my educational pursuits, through my spiritual growth. I had to turn to my ceremonies and my elders and my teachings to get myself well, to let go of all those things that made us civilized in the eyes of Western society. And for me to look at my own wellness, and as a mother and a grandmother now, I changed my life for my family, my son and my granddaughter. I cleaned up that stuff that was made for us to believe in because we were less than. We were taught of as less than, that being that kind of a human being in the eyes of Western society. I know it's a little bit harsh, but the reality is life has been harsh for us as Indigenous people. There's no sugarcoating it. That's the truth is the truth is the truth. And I am Turtle Clan, and that is my clan's teaching is to bring the truth out to community. And I have a huge legacy to uphold as a Anishinaabe in our society, not only in the community that I live in, but the home territory I'm from. The home territory defines where my feet landed on Mother Earth from my mother's womb. And that connection will never be severed, no matter what I do. And always honor and respect my homelands, the waters that I come from, and all of creation. Because all of creation is our first relatives as Anishinaabe people, the plants, the animals, everything. Everything has medicine, everything has spirit. Which.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing your stories, Beth and Vivian. That was very inspiring and very, very informative. I hope that everyone learned something new today. We have concluded our speaker presentations now, and it is time to open up the floor for some of the juicy questions. Thank you everybody for excellent participation in the chat, for keeping it going and sending us your questions. And we are going to see what you guys have sent us now. So what one of our participants, sorry, this question actually refers to Irv, Leslie, and Patsy, and it states, COVID-19 has shown a light on existing inequities, social determinants of health, and in turn, feels like health promotion. How can we ensure this talk translates to action?
So the question is around how to translate this idea of need for action on social and structural determinants.
Yeah, yes. with consideration of COVID-19. So I do see that it's connected with COVID-19, inequities, social determinants of health, and the field of health promotion overall. How can we kind of translate this to action in the future? What can we do to
that would be the $1 million question. I'll just take a stab at it. I see Patsy's unmuted too, so I'll turn it over to her to say a couple things as well. But I think that most people who've worked in the area of social determinants of health and health equity for some time recognize that the pandemic exacerbated what was already in place. There was already identification that we need to have intersectoral action. There was already identification that we needed to be pursuing anti-racist perspectives, etc. So it's not, in some ways, it's not new. So I think that the barriers for taking action around equity issues are the same barriers as have always been. So I don't really want to be the downer here, but I just want to say that I don't believe so. Then the next question is the COVID recovery and the idea of build back better, and we can't return to normal. I mean, those are great and interesting, but I think as soon as we step back and take a systems approach, we realize that systems have the snapback feature, right? So that while it can look like there's some change happening, a system is designed to get what it gets, and it tends to snap back. So I think that while we need to explore this, how are we going to move forward? I think the big thing that health promoters need to be talking about is the systems thinking, a systems thinking approach, changing the way that we actually engage with systems, not just doing the same thing that we've always done. So I think if we start there, then we'll start to explore some interesting ways of doing that. And I personally think that the core to doing that is to also change who we're talking with. So we always talk to the same old, we talk to the same people, we work within our silos. If we don't change that, I don't see how we're going to actually be able to change the conversation. So that's part of the thinking around at the national level. How can we build a network of networks? Because we need to be talking to each other and create the space. And so the question for me is, how do we create the space for that? And that's a webinar for another day.
Absolutely, I agree.
You want to add to that? Yeah.
Yeah, I would just pick up on that. A couple of things. I don't know, and many of you may or may not know, I work with the Circle of Health and have for quite some time, which I really think the time has come for that kind of thinking. And I can go on another whole day on that. But what is, I think is important is that just recently, because we're starting to talk to different people, we had a session on Monday where we brought together some people, actually Leslie initiated it, of people who are working across the country on different aspects of this very same question and how to actually move it forward, and starting to realize that we really need to share what's our best practice and what's working across the whole country and just begin that conversation more broadly. The other piece, that's one, and that's where I see a value in having sessions like this and beginning to have the dialogue and know who the people are who are doing this work. And that's really out there. But the other one is that I've been working with the Atlantic Summer Institute on healthy and safe communities for some time now. And really what we've just done as of yesterday was release a policy brief, which is all about mental health promotion for infants, children, and youth, that was supported by a huge number of intersectoral partners who are, really working toward health promotion, but focused on mental health promotion as the entry point. We really are looking at well-being. So there are opportunities there, and I think it's a matter of trying to connect with people who are doing that work, like Bronwyn's doing, or it's some of the people that have presented here today who have drawn some of the same conclusions. Is what we need to do is work across sectors and find those people to talk to. So if anybody wants to know something about the policy brief that the Atlantic Summer Institute just released, it's on our website, and you have that that URL there now, but I think with the idea of working with Health Promotion Canada now and trying to combine forces to really engage with people, that's probably what I would say is the next step.
That's really excellent. And honestly, to kind of take everything of what you said and transfer it to our next question here for Robin, which is, again, you know, everything is nowadays connected to COVID-19. We're still experiencing it. And one of our participants states that it is estimated that 1 in 3 who contract COVID-19, regardless of symptoms, including those who are asymptomatic, will experience long-term symptoms of COVID. So Robin, they do have 2 questions for you. How long do you think COVID could be addressed in health promotion across Ontario? And will emphasis be placed on marginalized communities or groups to access to long COVID healthcare? If you'd like to give a brief summary to that question, I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Robin, you're just muted, so you'll just need to unmute and then we can hear you.
Thank you kindly. In terms of the latter part of the question, what resources would be deployed or offered to people experiencing long COVID? It's my hope that that there's more wraparound approach and more collaboration across sectorally to address this. And the first part of the question, could you just repeat it again, please?
Absolutely. The first part was, how long will COVID be addressed in health promotion across Ontario? How long do you think this will go on?
My goodness.
I know it's such a another $1 million question.
It really is. It's like we're, I think, in it for the long haul, really. And it's, as I was saying, speaking to in my presentation, it really speaks to and puts under the microscope the existing inequities and fractures in the system. And it's my hope and our collective work, I think, that will keep this under the microscope and keep it front and center. But as was just discussed, systems do snap back. So, you know, with so many intersecting things happening, it's a matter of how to keep this under the lens closely and continuously respond to the many social determinants of health, which aren't always linear and don't always, it's not always a cause and effect thing, right? So that's the other piece. So I think we're in it for the long haul.
Yeah, and they're always constant. It's always present. The social just because COVID happened, and I liked what Bronwyn said earlier about when we're in multiple pandemics. It's all connected together, and nothing stops just because another thing happens. So our next question comes, so it's directed to Vivian, and honestly, Bronwyn and Beth, feel free to add in your thoughts. Once again, fantastic presentation, and thank you for sharing your stories. One ways you spoke to break down barriers to health was by having Anishinaabe peoples working in health promotion. How can health promotion attract more Anishinaabe expertise?
Am I on? Can you see me?
Yes, you are. We can hear you all clear.
So, you know, one of the things that brings me to mind is when I was working up north in Sudbury area at Chicago Health Center, one of the things that we had was an open gathering for Indigenous people from the area to the hospital to look at different people in their different health capacities at work. So it was a great awakening for a lot of our people, because we don't know what to expect when we go into these institutions. As a worker, we see what we are faced with right up front, right as soon as you enter the main door, the barriers that are there. But how do you engage people to come in and see what it would be like to be an X-ray technician, work in the mammograms, in the labs, all those different venues? Because I think for us, it's been a scary experience, at the least, to going back intergenerationally as well. We carry those blood memories of what happened with the experimentations of our Indigenous people. So that breaking down those barriers in that way is to invite us in and have I forget what they called it back then. And anyways, it was with the Cancer Center in Sudbury that we worked with the Indigenous population. And we had non-Indigenous providers coming to the health center to talk about their lines of expertise and what it takes to get there. You know, when I was taking lab tech work, we got to go into the morgue and you know, see exactly how the work is done there. So engaging people in actual tours of actual machinery that are used, technologies that are, you know, something that they will learn.
I realized I muted myself. Thank you very much. Bronwyn and Beth, would you like to contribute anything to Vivian's point?
I think I would just speak from the organizational lens. So I think for everybody to know here, the Niuemadonamac program sits within, it's an Indigenous program that's governed by a council with Indigenous members, and it sits within an organization that is not Indigenous. So that is a constant place of learning. And it really needs to, in order to prevent like a tokenistic approach, we're talking about systems, like systems need to change to be, you know, to feel not just welcoming, but also like new. There needs to be new avenues for that work to happen that is guided by principles that may be foreign to a Western organization. And there will be work that needs to be done internally to make sure that those spaces are safe, and not just for the members, but also for any staff that you're looking to bring on board. So just, I think it's important to flag there in terms of broadening representation within the organization, but making sure that that's done in a very safe and actually honest way in terms of how that work needs to be done.
Absolutely. I'm curious if, and this could be answered by all of our panelists, do you know what policy changes can be advocated for to address homelessness and the housing crisis? One of our attendees, this is a question coming from another attendee. Thank you so much once again for sending all the Q&As.
Definancialization of the housing market, right? Like housing not as a commodity, but as a human right. That's a huge policy shift. Yeah.
And anybody else who would like to add on? I'm happy to move on to another question to all of you, putting all of you on the spot here. It's like a teacher picking on the student. Who wants to answer? So one of our last questions before our webinar comes to an end is one of our attendees states that my biggest worry is funding post-pandemic. Issues highlighted during the pandemic may fall off the radar. How can we ensure it doesn't? Who wants to take on the question? Irv, we haven't heard from you yet. Would you like to? Oh, Robin has her hand up.
I'll take that question. This is again about intersecting issues, and we can't be addressing food security while we're not addressing homelessness, and we can't be addressing health equity while we're not addressing crime. Like, so again, it's just the main point I want to drive home is that all of these pieces so intersecting, and we know this, and the pandemic has really honed in and highlighted the intersections of this. And so how do we ensure that funding remains? Well, first of all, we all know we don't have enough in the first place. I think we have to share in the resources and try to figure out, this is the point of intersectionally working together across sectors in an asset-based way. How can we make the most of what we do have and promote and highlight those pieces, while of course still continuing to try to advocate for more funding across all of those areas: food security, housing, health promotion, all of it. But yeah, my fear, I share that as well, is that things ebb and flow, and again, not at the risk of being repetitive, but the system snaps back. So it's just keeping the pressure on ourselves and the systems that we're working within to ensure that these pieces stay in focus.
That was an excellent answer. And I think it is a wonderful way to wrap up our first session. I do notice that it is 1 o'clock and we'd like to wrap up our session for today. Thank you to all the speakers for these amazing presentations and thoughtful panel discussions. Thank you to all of the participants for joining today and sending in your questions. We do hope you enjoyed the first session in our winter webinar series. Your feedback is highly valued and we would love to hear from you in the post-evaluation session. You can scan the QR code with your phone or just click the link in the chat. We hope to see you next week for our second session on March the 17th, which is also a Thursday. So stay connected with Health Promotion Ontario on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. And don't forget to register to get exclusive member benefits. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to our team. We'd love to connect with you and have thoughtful discussions. Have a lovely day, everybody. Thank you so much. Yay, virtual applause. Bye. Thank you so much for coming.